Hello, my name is Bob Hartman with DeLong Rigging Solutions. To start today, we're going to talk about and review some basic terms. One-shot training videos are about entertainment rigging, the kind of rigging we do for concerts, theaters, and similar performing art venues. Rigging is a broad term. It encompasses an arrangements of hardware, equipment, and systems that are used for raising and lowering and suspending loads. Typical loads in the entertainment world are sound equipment, lighting equipment, LED video walls, and scenery. The process of installing the necessary equipment to suspend these loads is called rigging, and the people who do that are called riggers. There are other kinds of rigging, and there's some overlap between what those riggers do and what we do. But we're going to stick with entertainment rigging in this video and the terms that apply to us. Stage directions are used to give instructions and orient people to the space. In a typical theater, there are two orientations, right or left, depending on where you're located and what you're doing. If you're sitting in the audience, the house left is on your left and the house right is on your right. But if you're standing on stage as an actor or a stagehand and you're facing the audience, stage left is on your left and stage right is on your right, which is the exact opposite of what you would be thinking in the house version. It's important to be clear on whether you mean the stage orientation or the house orientation. We also use upstage, meaning towards the back wall, and downstage, meaning towards the audience, or towards what we would call the orchestra pit. That may help you to remember because the orchestra pit goes up and down. Center stage or mid stage is towards the middle of the stage. We use the term out to mean lifting something higher into the air, or in to mean bringing it in closer to the ground. If you're in the arena or a theater, they may use north, south, east, west, or possible an analog clock face. So the numbers 12, 6, 3, 9 to indicate directions. They may also arbitrarily pick an orientation to be upstage or downstage. Most venues have a quote unquote normal or standard position for the stage. So upstage and downstage is pretty well imprinted to the local stagehands for that venue. If your production is in the center of the arena, the locals will likely still respond using their normal stage position orientation. Some facilities have other methods. So it's wise to ask when you go into a local venue that maybe you're not familiar with to find out what those terms are. When someone says rigging for theater, they're typically talking about the fly system for that space. A fly system is in a general system is the fiber ropes, wire ropes, blocks, shivs, counterweights, motors, and other devices that enable the crew to fly loads quickly and quietly and safely. The space over the stage where much of the equipment resides is called the fly space or the fly house. The oldest version of stage rigging systems is called the hemp system, which in the ANSI standard 1.4-1 calls a rope and a sandbag system. It is a traditional rigging system where all loads are hung on a rope that is counterbalanced with a sandbag, or other weights attached to that some rope via a trim clamp or what we call a Sunday. There are not many theaters left today that use this system, but the techniques sometimes used in a theater or other space for some specific tasks that the counterweight system or other pre-existing systems do not easily accommodate. A more common, more modern fly system is a single purchase counterweight system. Loads are attached to a batten, which is held by several lift lines of wire that typically are 8 to 12 feet apart. Each lift line goes up overhead through its respective loft block, then through a head block and down to a counterweight arbor. The arbor has a rope attached to it that makes a continuous loop called the purchase line or an operating line. By pulling on one side or the other of the purchase line, you either raise or you lower the counterweight arbor. And in turn, the batten moves in that direction. In a single purchase system, you have 1-to-1 ratio. In other words, if you put 1,000 pounds on a batten, then you need 1,000 pounds on the counterweight arbor to offset it. So let's say you need to move the batten over a greater distance, or you want to have more operating position and lock rail up off of the floor to give you more space on the floor, or what we call swing space. Then you may need a double purchase system with a 2-to-1 ratio, meaning that if you have 1,000 pounds on the batten, then you need 2,000 pounds on the counterweight arbor. This is because in a double purchase system, you give up a mechanical advantage in order to gain the distance, specifically batten travel distance. In ANSI standard 1.4-1, they're referred to as a single riv or a double riv system. But it is much more common to hear single purchase or double purchase in a working environment. There are also motorized fly systems that use what we call winches to raise and lower battens. They're typically operated from an electronic control station, and the precise stopping points can be programmed into the system. Motorized fly systems are more expensive than manual operated ones and are typically proprietary to their manufacturer. They can be safer for moving very heavy loads, such as a batten full of electrical equipment that would otherwise require transfer of many stage lengths into a counterweight arbor. We use many kinds of rope in the rigging system. The fiber rope may be made from a natural or synthetic material that is twisted, braided, or woven together. When we say fiber rope, we're talking about the kind of rope we commonly use to tie knots. There are different diameters, types, materials, and strengths of the fiber rope, so ensure that you're actually using the right kind for the task you're doing. Wire rope or steel rope is made of many thin metal wires twisted into strands, and then those strands are twisted together to create the wire rope. It typically has a swage eye built in to the end, which you can use with shackles to attach other things to that cable. It's possible to tie a knot into smaller diameter versions of a wire rope, but that rarely happens in workplaces. Finally, blocks. A block is an assembly with a sheave. A sheave is a grooved wheel, which also might be called a pulley. A fly system has several different kinds of blocks. We guide the movement of both wire rope and fiber rope. In a typical fly system, you'll have a tension block or a foot block below each arbor at the bottom of a rail. We can adjust that to maintain the tension on the operating rope. The head block is above each arbor and has several sheaves to guide the ropes from which the arbor making a 90-degree turn and sending them out to each lift line block, loft block, where the wire rope makes another 90-degree turn down to the sheave to drop to its termination on the batten. There are many more terms you'll encounter in the videos, but this gives you a good overview of the common systems and how they will work. Please remember that DeLong Rigging Solutions one-shot training videos are meant as general information. Every system is different, every venue has different procedures, and even the same show in different places have different needs. All statements made make certain assumptions about systems and venue similarities. Nothing can replace on-site training with a qualified individual. If you ever have a question or concern about rigging, do not hesitate to reach out to us or another qualified vendor in your area.